Okay, let's see. Restream. Like we're live. Okay. Welcome everybody. See two new faces in here. This is Decontrol at the Hackerspace in Vancouver. And every week on Thursdays, during the summer we've been doing it every other week, but we have ETH Vancouver, where we usually have a talk about some topic in the space. This week we have Ash. There's also microphones around, so if you have any questions, please turn it on and then ask through that because we have some live stream viewers. Yeah, other than that, Ash, I'll let you take it away.
Thanks for making the time, everyone. We're going to talk about vibe coding today. That's just making apps without coding. If you have technical knowledge, feel free to shit on me after the talk. And it's been like put together pretty quick. So if any part didn't make sense, just feel free to jump in and ask a question because like I'm probably leaving out a lot here. Just a bit about me. I'm a product designer by background. Completely non-technical. I used to deal with like more tangible things. When I moved to Vancouver, it wasn't much of a thing out here. So got into brand identity for a while and then started dabbling with startups. Not gonna bore you with that, but when you start making or wanting to make application and you're a designer or an idea guy, you're pretty useless. And you have to like try to assemble a team, and good luck convincing people to work with you when you just have some sketches and no capital. So the pain point there is like trying to either just make some like sketches of a UI or like a mock-up of a working application through Figma or whatever, and trying to convince a developer that this is worthy of their time to partner up with you and work on it without them getting paid, but getting equity of a idea that's not live, which is pretty much nothing. Or you create a pitch deck and try to convince a investor to pay you so you can pay the developer. Either way, it's all really slow, very annoying, and you're pretty helpless as the idea guy. So I did that for a while. The apps we made didn't get anywhere, but I made really cool friends and met really dope builders. During that time, ChatGPT came out, and I was like, I wonder if it can write code. And it could, but it was pretty crap and useless. So what I would do is like copy paste things from GPT onto VS Code, which is a code editor we'll get to, and it would make an app. It's really non-functional, but it allowed me to illustrate my idea to the developers so they could see it in action instead of just seeing some UI, and it would save me a bunch of time. And then Claude came out. I was still doing the same workflow, but Claude was like 10 times better. It would help me just basically know what code to paste into which file, and it would make mistakes, but at the same time, it allowed me to make full-blown SaaS applications, which was pretty amazing, given like I had no technical knowledge. Within like a week or two, I managed to make, for example, an app that was handling user authentication, payment, database, image generation, text generation. The first example I think was like a app for creating custom bedtime stories for kids. It was called little-ones.fun, and you would just enter the name of a character or your kid's name and a genre of a story they like pirate story, adventure, sci-fi, whatever, and their favorite animal, and it would create a custom story for them with images. So that was really cool to see what's possible with Claude. When Cursor came out, it 10x from there again. Now I didn't have to copy paste things from moving two different interfaces, and it would create every file for me. It would be able to test things for me. It would be able to see the problems that is occurring with the code as opposed to me going to console logs, which is this section in your browser that you can open up and see what's wrong with your code and then pass that to AI. Basically, it's 10x from there. And 2-3 months ago, Claude Code started like Actually, I don't know when Code came out, but I started using it 3 months ago or so. And I could tell you it's like another 10x from Cursor, and it's only gonna get better. But this talk is not about replacing engineering with vibe coding or what I do. It's about like, if you don't want to become an engineer, here's what you could do to make applications that you're interested in. And you can make really powerful stuff by just knowing a little bit. From all the SaaS applications I made, trying to make something of my own, this was the first thing that actually made money. It was based on that Trump video of they're eating dogs and cats. And it became actually number 4 on Product Hunt, product of the day, and made me like $50 from the ad space on the above section here, which was pretty awesome that I could make money from nothing. But yeah, fast forward, now I work with Coinbase developer platform to make apps featuring their tech stack, like the stuff they're putting out, what can they be used for, which I love doing because I love making products, and this gives me like experimentation room to be like, okay, here's a cool tech we just got, what can we do with it? So for example, they just released this thing called Embedded Wallets, which works with email authentication and as of recently text authentication. They don't rely on like browser extensions. You don't need to have a wallet app or a seed phrase. You just enter your phone number or your email address. You get a one-time use password, and that's how you access your wallet or create one. And yeah, so for example, that allowed me to create this new interaction where it's like, okay, so when you have like a email list sign up or joining a beta list or anything that is to do with an email sign up, you can now like surprise and delight people. Like they just think they're joining your closed beta, but when they sign up, they actually are creating a wallet at the same time. So you can send them like a founder's pass, a POAP for like thanking them to join your application so early on, or even like later on, like, I don't know, sending them some token for governance if you're doing a DAO. This is one of the latest one that is not out yet, but it's an alternative to PayPal. You just use your email. This is the OTP you would get. And just like that, you logged into your wallet or you created one, and you could just use it to send your friends or family USDC to their email address, even if they're not on the app, because the embedded wallets also provide like out-of-the-box authentication services. So this goes to a escrow, waits for them to be claimed. And all the stuff I'm making is like open source, so you could fork them and create your own versions of them. Another thing that, for example, I made recently that is possible through embedded wallets is an alternative to Stripe Link. And here you just basically list the product or service, and you get a unique link for that you could share with your customers or fans, and they could pay for your services. It also has on-ramp where people can pay with Apple Pay or their credit card if they're based in the US, and otherwise they could just use their Coinbase account. So these are the stuff I work with. But bottom point is that, like, we have good tech coming out, and some good tech basically lower barriers to entry and decrease the learning curve, and hence like democratize the field. Think about like having to develop your own photos from a dark room. Fast forward, you take a digital photo, you edit it in Photoshop, and then fast forward, everyone has like cameras on their iPhone, and everyone's a photographer on Instagram. Everyone has their own TV channel on Kick, YouTube, Twitch, whatever, and everyone can have their own online store with Stripe or Shopify or other platforms without the technical knowledge, or build your own custom website with Squarespace and so on and so forth. And you can say the same thing about like Ethereum in a way. Like now with far less knowledge about like cybersecurity, you could create financial applications and things like that. But today we're gonna focus about how everyone is kinda a developer. And I say kinda because should these services not work that day, you're screwed. Like, so, like, this talk is not about replacing engineers. So maybe one day you guys will get replaced. If you're in the room, watch out. It's happening really quickly. But I think if you're an engineer, this could still like 10x your productivity. And if you're an engineer, it's actually way better because you know what you're talking about, as opposed to me who have to like ask 200 questions and still not be sure if AI is replying to me correctly. And so vibe coding, it became known as writing out, making code without knowing how to code. They call it vibe coding, but it's not all that fun. And it is kind of work, especially if you don't know what you're doing. You get a working prototype that has a lot of problems, and then debugging it is really painful. So when you get started, it's better to know what you're asking for as opposed to like YOLOing it or vibe code it, and then later have to like spend 3 days fixing something you made in an hour. And if you're like me, you're looking at creating applications on top of platforms, but if you're a dev, you're a veteran, you could use this as an opportunity to create platforms for someone like me, or people who are even like more on surface like vibe coding, just like using platforms that are now famous like Lovable, if you're familiar with that, or V0, which we'll get to as well. In other cases, there's also like consumer apps that are around like vibe coding mini games. On the left, you have an iOS app. On the right, you have a Farcaster app. They're both like platforms that allow users to essentially like vibe code games and add to their ecosystem. And there's so many other opportunities like this that if you're a veteran, it worth like having a look at like, okay, there's gonna be tons of vibe coders. What are the opportunities out there? What is the equivalent of Instagram for sharing or making apps as opposed to images? But this talk is for the me's on the other side. And you might be thinking like, okay, I'm not interested in mini games. I'm not interested in making SaaS applications. Why the hell would I want to vibe code? And the simple answer would be like, everyone's gonna need like a personal website at the very least. Or you could think of custom solutions that aren't out there, or you just save yourself subscription fees. So for example, this is an app I made for myself. It's a mobile PWA app that helps me just track my day and build my hobbies. I could export my days, feed it back to AI, and it would create me a program I could upload back to the application, and it would populate my days. And it helps me like do workout or like meal preps and stuff. And of course, I'm not a gym guy, so it allows me to like see what those training things are or how to make the things it's telling me to make, and so on. So at the very least, you can save yourself like $20 a week or a month subscription by making the custom app for yourself. And yeah, so when you're vibe coding, you're gonna have to deal with AI models, AI platforms, and AI code editors. And there's a lot of them out there. There's more coming out every day. It could be very, very confusing. And when you get into it, it's really helpful if you know what to use when. But if you're just getting started, I would say go for whatever like feels less intimidating for you. The middle one, the platforms, is normally where you should start because like that's the lowest barrier to entry. It's the least technical looking thing, though none of the three are technical if you know or if you're familiar with them. But yeah, the baseline would be like stay open to the new tools coming out, but don't like get drowned in a sea of like noise of like what's coming out every day. But if you see it keep mentioning on the timeline, like, oh, like what the new thing is now, Nano Banana, the new image generator or video generator by Google, Gemini. So if that keeps like appear on our timeline for another month, then maybe give it a shot if you're in dealing with like image generation or video generation. But for me personally, like it was Claude to begin with. I tried a whole bunch of stuff and I'm back to Claude. I think it's pretty smart at what it does when it comes to code generation, not necessarily all tasks that AI needs to do. And that could change in the future. And these are like the 4 things you need to be able to vibe code. You just need to be able to, yeah, go on.
Sorry, I was curious. What is a platform, AI platform?
Oh yeah, thanks for bringing. So AI platforms. Yeah, if you're not familiar with them, like Bolt, V0, Lovable. There's a whole bunch of stuff. I think Mocha just came out like I don't know 2 weeks ago. I still haven't personally tried it, but these are platforms that you essentially can just like. Let me go to V0. It's like a chatbot, just like ChatGPT or any other like AI chatbot, like Anthropic Claude. So you get an interface like this where you just type what you want to create on the left side, and it would bring it to life on the right side. And they also normally have this publish button on the top that lets you deploy to the web, share the application live with everyone. So it's like the lowest barrier of entry where you could like prompt your way into production, but that also creates limitation of like how advanced can you get. Cool. Sorry. All right. So all you really need for like being able to create like a SaaS application tomorrow is like just being descriptive, like actually think through what you want to create before starting to prompt. Like try to visualize it in your head, maybe sketch it on a piece of paper, do some wireframing, which is just like visualizing the application, or just talk to GPT about it. We're like, yeah, this is what I want to create. So the more descriptive you are, the better the outcome is going to be. And then have a rough idea of the architecture, know the right words to say, and ask questions and validate the answer. So like when I say know the right words, it's like, okay, so if you're an English-speaking person, you probably know of the term like liquid, but if you haven't gone to science class, maybe you wouldn't know the term viscous, or you might know the term speed, but you wouldn't know the term acceleration. Like, so these are just like technical words that you need to learn to be able to ask for what you want better and describe the features you're looking for. So for example, if on an application, every user has their own page, that's called like a dynamic page. But if there's just like one page that everyone sees the same thing, that's just like a normal page. And these are like the structure that like are useful to know, but you don't necessarily need to know exactly everything about it. And when I got personally started, I would have loved to like be able to go to a course that like can just teach me all this high level stuff, like what's an SDK, what's an API, what does the layout do, what are components, what are webhooks. And you don't need to know exactly what they are, but like having a rough idea what they are helps. So I put this thing together called Vibebook.xyz that would like walk you through all this like basic stuff you need to know, like to be able to like make a SaaS app without going too deep into stuff. And that covers like from the basics like that, but also like gives you some like tips and tricks of like what do you do when you get stuck, like or what are the ENVs, which is like basically your API keys or secret variables that are not supposed to be publicly shared. Think about it like your private key for your wallet. But I thought, yeah, the best way would be to like cook something together to show you like that it's like really not rocket science. So I put together like this write up because the most consuming part of like vibe coding is just like writing prompts. Though I sometimes just speak to the computer. If you're using a Mac, you could just tap the microphone icon on the top and it would start spelling things out like that, which is pretty time saving. But yeah, so what I did is just like, I thought of like an application we could make today that's pretty simple, and I tried to describe it to the best of my ability, though you're probably never gonna be as accurate as a dev would be. That's why like having, the more knowledge you have, the more effective you're gonna be. So this is gonna be like a donation site called Webtree, and it's basically people buying these emoji plants as a means to donate. but they're also putting themselves on your radar. I thought of the idea because like Mr. Beast had this Team Water fundraise stream he did recently, and then one of the Twitter folks, Leap, did the same thing recently. And when I was watching them, I was like pretty interested how I felt like I could be completely off point, but it was like a point of advertisement to have that leaderboard. It's like I might donate just to get my name out there, and so perhaps like a donation application like that that it generates traffic and people want to put their name out there, their site out there, or whatever. And so you would like get the biggest plant of this app. So maybe you could have get an option for $1 million and they'll just cover the whole page or something. But yeah, I just gave it these options of like, let's have 3 plans. One is $1, $2, and $5. There's only one page. It shows all the plants. If I click on a plant, a modal should open. So like, for example, modal is like, okay, not necessarily a technical phrase, but like it's like a term you should know to describe what you want, which is that thing that opens up, which is not a page. And the modal should basically show my Twitter handle and the transaction hash. And then we're just saying that we want you to create it with a Next.js app router and to use a MongoDB database, which is a database provider. You could be using other platforms, but again, it helps to know a little bit because there's many. And if you don't describe it, AI would pick one. And it might not be the best option for you because, for example, Mongo is free as many databases you want to create. But like for Superbase or other platforms, you might be limited to one database for their free tier. And worth mentioning, I'm not affiliated with anything. I'm like, Cloud is sick, like MongoDB is sick. Like these are just my preferences. And we're just mentioning that this is going to be on base testnet. And here are like local document files for embedded wallets, which we're going to use as the means to interact. And all I've done was to basically feed that prompt and have it generate this PRD, which is a product requirements documentation, or otherwise called a product specification document. And you just ask, like, this is like pretty standard workflow for me. It's like, I just describe the thing I want to make, and then I'm like, hey, but I'm not sure I'm doing this right. Have a think. What should be the project structure? How should we implement this? And write this technical documentation for me. So this is what it would generate. And then when I'm asking for this, I also ask it to like break things down. So instead of just like, again, AI is getting so much better that you might not even need to mention this in a week from now. But the more descriptive you are, the better. So when you say break it down, what it's going to do is to create smaller pieces of code, which could be assembled to create the application, as opposed to just going for one giant file. And so I'm just going to type this while we're going to PRD. And I ask it to break it down into phases for implementation. So when it gets back, it's already like, has this like pretty neat plan laid out for me. And then what I'll do is, which I just should have just copy paste the pre-written prompt, like go through the PRD and execute the task, only doing one task at a time, and marking the PRD with a check mark as you complete them. So the reason you would say that is to like limit its context to one thing, because like the more knowledge you throw at the AI, the more likely it's to hallucinate or like go off the rails, or just not pay attention to everything that it needs to. So we're trying to just get it to like do one thing at a time, and then go through our PRD and be like, okay, that's done, and then come back and tell us like, yeah, we made the first thing. Okay. Well, yeah, you go ahead.
Hello. That document that you had,
Yeah.
would you send that whole thing as you're in like with all the slashes? Are those like is that multiple back and forth, or is that like one prompt that you send in?
Here, it was more than one prompt, but normally it could be generated with one prompt. The other prompt, for example, I use.
Yeah, like the slashes here. What is?
Oh,
that-
yeah. Oh, these ones. I thought you meant in the ID.
Yeah. Like
which-
in here, like I see. Are
Right.
those?
Yeah, these are like chunks that are made so we don't spend time like typing them.
Okay, but if you were to actually submit this prompt with this, would you like how much would your first prompt be? How much of this thing that you've written up?
This is like one prompt to generate the initial PRD, for example.
Mhm.
And then after this, I asked it to, so that prompt was followed by this. And this is in case like you have a bigger project for something like this. I was gonna actually feed it just that and just be like, build it. So like, if you're not creating a complex like app, like the context window of AI is like, for Claude is like 1 million tokens, which is like plenty to just be able to do this in one go. But yeah, when you have like something more complicated, what you want to do is like to ask it to generate a PRD first. Yeah, so like a follow-up prompt I had for the PRD generation right now. So it looks like the command actually didn't work and I wasn't even paying attention. Why not? So it's like doing things one by one, which is not like something I would even approve. Just gonna like let it auto approve right now since we're talking. But another thing, for example, there was this vibe coded application called T or something like that, which was like a dating application thing for ladies to check on guys to people got the whole database. Oh, I didn't know that part. So yeah, one thing like is like known for like to be problematic from vibe coding is like, oh, but it's not safe or secure. I don't think it's like the tech that is not safe or secure. It's the people who like use them. So like, even if you're an engineer, you could make the same mistake if you're not like considering security. So I learned that from that first game I showed you. They're eating the cats, they're eating the dogs demo. Since that got like somewhat picked up, people immediately start hacking it to put their own scores on the board without playing the game. So you would have like 1 million, bajillion, whatever points, which is impossible. But that's to have your own name on the top, which then means people are seeing your X account on the top without you even playing the game. Or just saying like inappropriate things to get my app shut down, which I'm like, bro, get a life. Like, so I learned that really early on, and like, but like, you could still vibe code your way out of that. And again, like, the solution is just basically, again, just being descriptive. So we're like here we're saying, hey, does the PRD you made mentioned like securing the endpoints? We don't want people to manipulate the database. So like, say you didn't know the name endpoints. You could just describe like, hey, is it possible to get a tree without buying it? And it would tell you something. And that like chain of asking the right questions would lead you to securing your app. But whatever you end up with, I would still say consider that like a V0 or an MVP, like the first version of your product, as opposed to something you're gonna like ship to thousands of people, because the likelihood of that app being scalable is like really low. Or it would scale and it just costs you a lot of money. But the point of this is not to replace the next Stripe or whatever, is to basically, instead of like going to an investor, be like, hey, I'm gonna make the next Stripe, make the first version of it, release it, have people try it out, iterate it based on that, and like get to some form of product market fit. And then that would attract the developer that previously you had to spend a lot of time convincing to be like, oh my God, this product seems to have users, and that's what engineers get excited about. They're gonna jump on board. Next thing you know, the VC is the one who's trying to give you money with force instead of you being like, okay, here's my pitch deck. So I think Vibe coding changes that whole formula of like how an idea guy or a non-technical guy could go around building something out. Um, and yeah, so I've not been paying any attention to this. Let's see what it did. I highly doubt it's functional because I think it took a completely different route that I wanted it to. But let's try it out. While we're trying this out, it's gonna tell you what this is. So this is the code editor we mentioned earlier on that is called an IDE. This particular one is called Cursor. It's like one of the first thing that popularized vibe coding. On the left side is all the files you would see on your computer. So for example, the project we're in is right now ifvan, and the project Claude just made is this web tree. And one thing you might not notice is that actually you don't see it right now because it hasn't made the file. So this is one of the mistakes. So if you don't have the basic knowledge that if you haven't read something like the vibeboot.xyz or did your own research, you would ship this application if it's working. So let's see if it's working. It's still working on it apparently. Sorry, go on. Yeah. It had the QR code next to it. Let me go back to the slides.
Thought it might just be cool to see it for the presentation too.
Da, 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 da.
Oh, I saw the URL. It's just
God, there you go. If you want to see that a bit larger. Cool. Oh, sorry. You got it? All right. So it looks like it's completely made a mess here. And that reason is it tried to manually create the project. This is like why I would have stopped it had I been paying attention. But I think it can still figure it out. But yeah, while it's doing its thing, I'm just gonna explain to you one thing that, for example, to put my point across why you need to have a little bit of understanding. If I was to like launch this application right now, you can see that all the files have the same coloring. Let me see if I could expand this view. Which means they're all gonna get uploaded online. That means like the secret phrases, which are in this file, are also gonna get uploaded. And for that not to happen, your project uses something called git ignore, means like ignore this file. And right now, since Claude manually installed everything instead of like running the terminal commands, it doesn't have that file, and hence it's not going to ignore that. That means as soon as I launch, should my application include like any private keys, like my wallet address, let's say I'm trying to launch an agent, or I'm trying to launch like an AI generative image app, which includes an API key to pay the provider, they're gonna drain all my credit. They're gonna drain all my wallet. I'm not gonna even know it till it's too late. So let's say you didn't know that. You could ask it like, audit the code. Are we safe to launch? And one of the first things Claude's probably gonna do is like to see if your env value is gonna get uploaded. And already also have this backup one here, so I don't have to get the keys today. I just paste it and see if it works. But meanwhile, I'll rotate the keys anyway. Just copy it over. So it doesn't get further confused. But yeah, any questions?
Yeah. So I've heard some people spend like, or when it was first released, Claude Code or one of their new models, somebody spent like $2,500 in 24 hours. How much would it cost to like build this app just fully vibe coding?
This, like, $20 if you have like a Cursor subscription.
Is it all included with Cursor? Like
No,
20 bucks
right
a
now we're
month, or
using
like-
Cloud Code, which is a $20 Anthropic subscription.
Okay, but it's subscription based. It's not.
Yeah,
like
you don't need to be
usage-based?
API key based, like, which I don't use that either because you could like blow your budget
Yeah.
pretty easily if you do use it a lot and you're facing like straight up trouble and you don't know what you're doing. I'll recommend just like going for the max subscription.
Yeah.
What
is
and
there,
that way you could just code all day for $140 a month.
Okay. Is there
and
a
that-
limit at all or no?
I haven't reached the limit yet with it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But if you're not using it 24/7, you could get $20 subscription is too much. Like,
Yeah.
you're good with that.
Yeah, I find out because I'm also a vibe coder. You know, I know
Awesome.
I know how to code too. You know,
Yeah.
But it's just like sometimes I code vibe code, and I find out the cursor it hallucinate a little bit. You know,
Yeah.
and then it doesn't like what you say. It doesn't protect your keys. So now I just say okay, then I won't rely on it completely. I just do it by myself. You have help. Just,
Mhm.
you know, just using some of the help to get a basic. I just correct
That's nice.
because if you rely on completely,
Yeah.
probably the scammer gonna hack you.
Yeah.
know?
You shouldn't rely on vibe
Yeah,
coding
yeah,
completely.
exactly.
But if it's not anything like financial related, you're good to go. Just before we get to the next question, so this like continues fixing things. Say you had a problem like this, like what the hell's going on? Why don't I see my application, right? Here are the things you would do. So first off, just literally copy paste all the problems that's showing up in this section, which is called your terminal, that you can open and close on the top right like this in your cursor environment. Probably the same thing in the other IDEs. Second thing is you double click if you're using Chrome, there's a thing called inspect and navigate to this part that says console, and you can pass the error logs here. Last thing is like just literally take a screenshot. You could paste the screenshot into your terminal and Cloud Code can see the image and be like, dude, nothing. Oh, wait. It's wrong place to type. Dude, nothing is working. What's going on? And now we can move to the next question if there's any. Well, let's work working with it. Otherwise, we can just call it a day. Yeah.
You showed like a bunch of like rule settings that you put up like in the first presentation, like in your initial prompt. So do you not like consider any like security related questions in there as well, like a security related rule sets, especially if you're handling like if you work with like CDP and you have like a lot of like wallet stuff, there should be at least like some basic security to avoid like uploading secrets or that kind of thing.
Yeah. So when you actually like getting to the point that like security is gonna be an issue, I would say like if you're just vibe coding to make an MVP or an example, it's not really a thing because like you're not thinking of like production level. You're not like trying to get loads of customers or whatever. But if you are like a programmer using vibe coding, you probably know more than I do. But one thing I'll recommend is just like familiarizing yourself with the like code.md or literally going into sorry, just a sec, code. The like deeper into the settings of Claude, which you could create ones like sub agents. You could define what do they get to touch. This is like a rule based agents that you can call. So it's like I could just call Claude and it would know it only allowed to read stuff and it's not allowed to write stuff. And another thing is like defining, so if I go to settings somewhere here, you could see that you could like even get more nitty and gritty by like creating .Claude folder and defining settings within those parameters. I haven't started messing with these yet, but you could see if you look on YouTube, you see like people are doing cool experiments with it, such as like make a ping sound when it's done. So like for example, right now I don't have to navigate back here and be like, yo, I fixed it. Did it fix it? Yeah, it looks like it fixed it. But yeah, you could define like custom things there. If you're really like concerned about security, I would recommend like not even using Claude and like going with like open source models like OSS. I think is like the latest GPT that is like a open source model. And I don't know how good it is at coding, but maybe DeepSeek or Llama would be like the way to go.
That doesn't necessarily like for security or like for privacy probably helps you. But like in your T example, you're doing something with like KYC, you're handling somebody's passport, like photos and stuff. You probably don't want to vibe code it in general.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I you wouldn't want to vibe code, but then again, like I would say, like for the most part, you're safe as long as your application is not gonna blow overnight. And even if it does, I think maybe you could just like use that as a point of advantage to be like, look, everyone's talking about what was it, T something, and then you get engineers to work on it to improve it. You get investors to like settle the lawsuits coming your way. Like, not an advice, but I think you could like handle that after the math. But anyway, sorry this didn't go well. I did expect this to happen when you're not paying attention to anything. So I did actually make a backup for this in case this goes south. While we were waiting before the talk, instead of getting it to do the PRD, I just tried to see if it would one-shot it. And the funny thing is that the one-shot one actually worked really well, which is surprising because normally like the better, safer option is to get it to like follow a plan of development. But I guess not in this case. So if I go here, you can see that the first version worked. And that was like a one-shot while we were waiting. Luckily, we have a backup now. But is it not loading? Crap. It's not helping me prove a point today. But honestly, I don't know why it's not working right now. It was working before we started the talk. Anyway, there's nothing you can't handle. It's like if you're paying attention, you could like literally help it debug itself. But anyway, sorry it didn't work. But yeah, I hope you still go home and try it. Give it a try. Even though this doesn't look promising, I promise you it would like drop your jaw when you have that magical moment of like, oh, I wrote something and it resulted in an application. And again, like if security is your concern, don't launch things, just like use it as the demo so that you don't have to develop Figma skills, you don't have to learn CSS, HTML, JavaScript, and all that just to show what you're thinking about. And showing is way better than telling because you're literally capturing their imagination by being like, this is what I'm talking about. You're saving all that time of getting lost in translation or them being like, oh, it sounds cool, but I don't know. That way you get immediate feedback by just spending a couple of hours behind a laptop, prompting your way. Anyway, that's it. Sorry, it didn't work. Thanks.
Yeah, any extra questions?
I know you mentioned that you're a designer as well. Are you still using design tools to prototype before you go and vibe code? What's your process from the initial idea to getting something out?
I think it's like project based for me. Like, so sorry, it also looks like I've been prompting in the wrong ID. This is why you can't. So we've been like taking one project's issues and giving it to the other one, and the other one's like, yeah, dude, I'm like working on it. Sorry. So I think it's project based. If it's just like a quick demo, I would start with the platforms we mentioned. So like something like Lovable or V0, and I would then download the application it made, chuck that into Cursor, and then have Claude polish it for me. And I might use screenshots. So like I do create like think about having your own personal Pinterest folder where you have like buttons, components, like navigation bars and stuff like that. That's something I sometimes use. Be like, hey, I want it to look like this. Other times, like, because I am making like at least 2 apps a week, it like creates this like library of component resources that I might not be able to regenerate. So like one thing that is not like really likely with AI is for it to generate the same thing twice, whether that's text, images, or code. So I might have loved a component like it made. So for example, a button style that it made, and I'll just like copy that component and be like, make it exactly like this. Another thing is like, yeah, I might actually jump onto like Illustrator, Figma, and be like, this is the thing I made. Either go to dev mode for Figma and copy that CSS style, pass it, or just take a screenshot of it. But the thing that I use the most lately is actually just going to, not lately, actually the most overall, going to like component libraries. One of the nicest one is this thing called 21st.dev that you could basically just type like button. Not sure how nice the buttons are gonna be, but it would show you like a library of button components, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's exactly what I've been looking for. Something that throws up confetti when I click it. And then you can actually try that component out in the like sandbox environment they got here. And you have the code here, but the best part is they give you the custom prompt for the, oh, they just added Cloud Code, about time, for the environment you're using. And by copy pasting that, it's like giving it clear guidelines on what you want it to do. And then there's like multiple versions of those. Like there's this Magic UI. There's a bunch of libraries. There's some libraries also mentioned in the resources section of the vibebook.xyz if you're keen to find some component libraries. Do you use this stuff, or like? Because I would love to know what you do. If you have the tips and tricks for us, like.
I've dabbled, but I still use Figma a lot. And
Yeah.
Take the screenshot and then.
Yeah. If you're a designer like him, like you're using Figma, there's this nice tool also called Anima, which is like the this is not the right Anima. This is another Anima. Anima. This one. animaapp.com. You could give it a Figma URL, and it would generate the component for you, which is like, I find it to be nicer than the MCPs you could use to plug into Cloud Code, because I guess they're just fine-tuning their platform to work with Figma. And for those not familiar with MCPs, they're just like the APIs for AI. Let's put it simply. It just uses different services and tools that the AI might not come equipped with it out of the box.
Hey Ash, a lot of the demos and projects you've shown are like mainly front-end web app type stuff. Have you tried vibe coding some other stuff like smart contracts, or you want to build a blockchain or something like that? You had any successes or experiences with that?
Yeah, so that's where I draw the line. I don't touch smart contracts. But having said that, I like the Between Friends app that works with an escrow, but I've then set it to only like be on testnet because I'm not confident with it, even though I had it like so. The application was like made in a day. The audit took 2 or 3. So like, because I don't buy a single word it says. Anthropic released research themselves showing how Claude lies. So like, they're still trying to understand it. It's definitely above my pay grade to understand why it's lying or get it to stop lying. But we know it lies, so don't believe what it says. Like take it with a grain of salt. And there is also this 2 new ones called Town Hall, which is a market prediction we're gonna have for the internal team. This also works with a contract, but again, it's not like it's on testnet only, and there's not gonna be any market created where we can make one. I hope my boss forgives me. He wanted an empty template. Name's Dan, and he always wear hats. So I'm gonna say, actually, we can talk about. Will Dan get mad at me for launching this? And you guys can go online. What it does, if you head to townhall.lol, we set it to end in a few hours. When you log in, it should use. I guess I haven't said that part out, but yeah, you could go to the page. It uses the Faucet APIs to fund your wallet, to let you create an application. To let you create a market, and then you could go vote on that market. So this is using a smart contract, but I would not launch this on mainnet.
But you did deploy or implement and
yeah, I've
deploy a
done it
smart
before,
contract.
but I would not launch something to mainnet. This
So,
is
but-
the security thing I would not touch.
So you're like, you wouldn't launch it, sure, it's a mainnet, but like it does give you working smart contracts. And,
yeah,
right.
and you can get it to audit it as well. So, but this is where I would like, I think it's still dope because now, like, I know, for example, I'm not gonna name him, but he's in the room. He's an awesome smart contract developer and a friend. So I'll be like, hey, I made this thing. Do you mind having a look at it if it's safe to launch? Yeah, everyone knows him. It's like, I don't know how doxed he is, so like not gonna mention his name, but yeah. So instead of being like, hey, I'm thinking of creating a prediction market app. Would you be down to create the smart contract? I'm just gonna make the application and be like, dude, this is what I got. Do you mind having a look if it's working? And he's way more likely to do that. You can say yes or no from the back of the room. It's thumbs up for the crowd. So yeah, he's more likely to look into it. Cool. We good? Yeah? All right. Thanks for coming out, everyone.
Yeah, thanks everyone. We'll be back in 2 weeks. We're doing every other week now. So yeah, see you then. Thank you.